find it interesting with the various and sundry readings from the Gospels during the Easter season. And the one today we have is extremely important, and it's the one that's very familiar to us because it's about the sheep and the shepherd and how the shepherd knows the sheep and vice versa, and all those things that we've heard in the past. But yet one of the things that we have to constantly continue to remember in our own spiritual journeys is that in our own life, we are like those sheep. And one of the areas that is very important to us is that we're able to identify ourselves in our own comfort zone. Not only did we find the word comfort in our response to the first reading in Psalm 23, we find it scattered throughout our gospel this morning from St. John. And that particular word, the etymology of that, comfort, the first part, come, means with, fort means strength. And so when we seek comfort, we're seeking some kind of strength. And so in our own lives, when we feel sick, when we feel somehow abused, when we feel that we don't belong somewhere, we retreat so often to our comfort zone where we find strength and safety for us. And so Jesus this morning in our gospel talks about the wolves and how they chase the shepherd away, and now the wolf can devour the sheep. That wolf truly represents for us those elements of our lives where we find fear. That wolf stands for those things that come at us that make us afraid, that make us retreat. And if we don't find the comfort, we go nowhere. If we don't find the strength, we go nowhere. And that for us could be a number of things. We could retreat for a lot of areas into a lot of areas of our lives that we don't particularly like. It could be how we view the way we work and with whom we work. It could be the fact that we don't find a lot of solace in our social life. We may find even no comfort even in our church. And in this last week, I couldn't help but think about this gospel when that whole issue of swine flu or N1H1 or whatever they now call it arose. It's like, oh my, what are we doing? Because it's a fear. It's a fright. And if you read closely, it's no different than what's gone on in the past. We lose 40,000 people a year in the United States from flu alone. The only difference is that it spreads faster than the flus that we've had in the past. And people are running to get masks, and they're running to buy the medicine that only works if you've got it. So why get it if you don't have it? And all of the people are fearful. And they're trying to retreat to a comfort zone by trying to protect themselves. Now, if we take that example and we use that example of those things in our lives that frighten us spiritually or in our journey towards God, it might make more sense as we find ourselves encrusted in a very small arena in our life where we don't venture out. But if we look at the ministry of Jesus, we find Jesus not encrusted. We find him walking straight forward. And that's what our gospel tells us to do today. That we need to seek the solace and comfort in that shepherd who is Christ. And all of the comfort we seek in our life physically are from those that surround us. It could be our parents, it could be our spouse, it could be our significant other, it could be our boss, it could be all kinds of people that give us comfort. But we can't stay there. We need to move on. We can't stay situated in one spot and say we're there. Our life and our journey as the sheep in our gospel this morning don't end with significant events. The only time that journey ends is when we enter into resurrection and the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, these apostles who were around Jesus before his death did exactly what these sheep did today, and being scattered by the wolves, those who were trying to get them like they got Christ. So they knew the fear, they knew the anxiety, and it wasn't until some of those significant appearances of Jesus after the resurrection that we have experienced in our readings in the last couple of weeks that we find them getting their strength from a resurrected Christ. That's our call. That's our mission. And most importantly, walking out of our encrusted area is our call to mission in the ministry of Jesus Christ crucified and redeemed. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.